Well, hi. How's it going? Happy Friday. I forgot for a second what day it was. Hi. It's Friday. It's Friday. How's it going? Hi, Puffy. Hi, Taylor. Lovely to see you both. I hope you're doing well. Let me know how the music is. I want it to be kind of just there, chilling, nice background music, but I don't want it to be too soft or too loud, so just let me know. But we're gonna read some more today. That's what we're gonna do. I don't have to be at work till 4, so it's a perfect opportunity. I was literally just like laying around my house watching playthrough of Pokemon Black and White 2. So, you know, might as well. Okay, real quick. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that all is good as far as audio goes, so I guess we'll just get started here. You and your love of watching other Pokemon. I do. I love watching Pokemans. I love it. Audio seems fine. Okay, thank you. And hello, Tara. Okay, so we're gonna go into chapter 6, and here's the picture. Chapter 6, The Pitch. The phone inside the Watts brothers' suite rang. On the second ring, JJ picked it up and put the receiver to his ear. The voice on the other end of the line was Trudy's. "Banana," she said. That was the code word. The mission was a go. JJ nodded to Valentine, who got up and left the room, taking the elevator up to the 5th floor. Stopping in front of room 524, he took a deep breath, then knocked 3 times. After a few long moments, a voice came from the other side of the door. "Who is it?" "Mr. Newberry, it's Valentine Watts. I think I have some valuable information that you might want to hear." A longer silence. Valentine's heart beat faster as each passing moment felt like it would be the end of the plan. Then, "What is it?" "Sir, I think it might be best if we sat down and had a meal over it, if you don't mind." More silence. Valentine was ready to call in the abort, which was him leaning his head out of the window and cawing like a bird so that his brother could hear. The door swung open and before him stood Thad Newberry in a button-down shirt with flames at the bottom. He still had his trademark sunglasses and ponytail. He sized Valentine up and down. "You've got 5 minutes, kid." Thad followed Valentine silently down the elevator to the 1st floor. On the way to the restaurant, Valentine spotted Marcella P. Gross smoking in the non-smoking section of the bar, ignoring the bartender's pleading. He glanced over at the front desk of the reception area and met eyes with Trudy De La Rosa, thumbing his nose at her. She took the cue and left her station to walk toward the elevator banks. She kept her head down as she passed by Madame Fournier, talking sternly with the tall groundskeeper. Once seated, Thad crossed his arms and sighed. "All right, kid, what's so important that you had to drag me all the way down here to talk about it?" Valentine took a deep breath and leaned in. Thad followed suit. Valentine stared deep into Mr. Newberry's eyes, just past his sunglasses. "I've got a great book idea for you." Trudy knocked on the door to the Watts brothers' suite in the prescribed 2 quick, 1 slow, 2 quick fashion that JJ had taught her. He opened the door as soon as the knocks were done. "Good to go?" "Good to go." They took the elevator to the 5th floor and walked down the long hallway to room 524. Trudy kept lookout while JJ got on his knees in front of the door and unfurled his trusty lock-picking kit. Selecting his trusty scraper and the correct tensioner for the job, he set to work on the lock. But before he inserted the tensioner, he thought for a moment, put his tools down, and tried the door handle. The door to room 524 opened. JJ frowned at Trudy. "Does nobody here lock their doors?" Thad Newberry stood up from his chair. "You know this always happens. Thanks, but no thanks, kid." "Wait," said Valentine. Thad looked at him expectantly. "I knew who you were from the moment I saw you. You're the Thad Newberry. You're a literary titan of the industry." "Well, titan sounds like a bit of an overstatement." "Nonsense! The second I laid eyes on you, I knew that you were the guy out there making careers happen. Your trademark sunglasses were a dead giveaway. So I say to myself, this is my one chance to get into collaboration with the man with the unparalleled eye for literary talent." Valentine flashed an uncharacteristic smile. What do you say, pal? Just give me the time of day and I'll knock your socks off. Thad sat back down. A smart person knows when and where they're dumb, and who to ask for help. I think you've got a knack for finding the smart people in the room. He leaned back in his chair. All right, kid. Hit me with what you got. Valentine Watts truly had not believed he would get this far. He frantically searched around the room for inspiration. It's your classic story of good versus evil, he stumbled. Thad stared at him with a blank expression. And, it's about, He scanned the room again, spotting a grizzled patron with an eye patch who looked like he harbored a terrible secret. Some animal heads on the wall, structured in a way to suggest a long and storied lust for conquest, and a waitress across the restaurant serving coffee whose aspirations obviously laid well beyond her life in the food business. He couldn't think of anything. It's about two brothers, he blurted. That's a start, said Thad, still unimpressed. But where's the conflict? What's the adversity they have to overcome? They're on the run from their past. Thad sighed. It's been done before. I mean, they're literally being chased by their past. Valentine began perspiring. He had to pull himself out of the tailspin that he was currently in. Someone from their past is out to get them, to drag them back to the life of lying, cheating, and stealing. She's the embodiment of pure evil. Thad pinched the bridge of his nose. So let me get this straight. Your story's about two brothers running from a woman. They're in a gang. Right, they're in a gang. Is there anything they're trying to achieve? Any goal? Something that might have mass market appeal in the 13 to 17 demographic? Was them being in a gang too much, or does inner conflict count? Okay, said Thad. He got up out of his chair. I am clearly dealing with an amateur here. I know we're stuck inside a hotel until this passes over, but please don't even think about bending my ear again unless you have an actual story to tell. I deal in mystery. I deal in intrigue. I deal in action. I do not deal in half-cocked stories about brothers just trying to get by. Thad turned to make his way back to his room. Don't call me, I will call you. Wait! Thad turned with a sigh. Valentine realized he was just a hair away from failing his mission. In this moment, he realized something that many young writers fail to figure out and many veteran writers woefully ignore. You have to sell your book by any means necessary. And to do that, sometimes you have to compromise your initial creative vision. Literary agents are not an intelligent bunch, but as they hold the keys to the proverbial kingdom of publishing, they must be pandered to. He saw Thad's ponytail. He saw Thad's sunglasses. He examined Thad's demeanor. He had an idea. The woman, Valentine said. What if she had 3 boobs? Valentine cringed. The mission was now over. He had to find a way to alert JJ and Trudy as quickly as possible. Thad paused in his tracks. That blank expression hidden behind his trademark sunglasses seemed to stare through Valentine's soul. He walked back to the table, sat down, and leaned in. I'm listening. JJ and Trudy entered room 524 and immediately cased the joint. Before them stood a large hotel suite, larger even than Valentine and JJ's upgraded suite, with an unmade bed and an open suitcase's worth of clothes strewn across chairs and thrown onto the floor. Okay, said JJ. We have 2 minutes to find what we're looking for and get out of here. I love Valentine, but I doubt that any book pitches he came up with have any commercial viability. He checked under the bed to see if there were any stray clues lying about. Only dust bunnies. We're looking for the manuscript or anything that'll give us a better idea of where it is hiding. Do you think Wallace would have emailed it to him? Probably not, said Trudy. Wallace P. Gross told me multiple times, unprompted, that he thinks computers are the devil. She picked through the clothes in Thad's closet. Does this guy only wear button-down shirts with flames on them? There's a few in here with dragons, said JJ. Check his suitcase. Maybe there's a hard copy of something that'll be useful. Trudy picked up some of the clothes covering the suitcase on the bed and peered inside. Here's something, she said, pulling out an old envelope packed full with letters. JJ closed the empty cabinet he had just searched and walked over to Trudy. What is it? Trudy thumbed through the letters, reading them as fast as she could. Looks like correspondences between Wallace P. Gross, Thad Newberry, and some publishing company called Bradford and Bradford. JJ clenched his fist. Bradford and Bradford, those dirty rats! Never have I met a more dishonest and unkind publishing house. There's an editor's note here at the bottom. We were contractually obligated to keep this in as well. The letters get angrier and angrier as time goes on. Seems like Wallace was well overdue on his manuscript, and the publishing house had been putting on the pressure. Here's one of Thad Newberry pleading with Wallace to send him something. Anything of the new book. Trudy got to the last letter. Here's something. A letter from Wallace to Thad, dated 2 weeks ago. Dear Thad. Could you read it in a more blustery collegiate voice? Asked JJ. Trudy rolled her eyes. Dear Thad, I hope this letter finds you well. As my literary agent and close confidant for the last 20 years, I feel as if I owe you the complete honesty due to a man of your stature. The truth is, Thad, that I've not put a single word of the new novel to ink in the time that I've been at the Chateau. Uncharacteristic of me, I know. I'm usually the one client who can scribble out a manuscript over a long weekend. The truth is that I've uncovered something far greater. A mystery in my own backyard that promises untold riches. There exists a secret passage leading beneath the Grand Chateau, and I have found the entrance to it behind the bookshelf of my study. Turns out John Henry Grande was a mysterious man who had renounced his fortune and hidden it somewhere in the bowels of Grand Mountain. So you were right, said JJ. There was a glimmer in his eyes. He felt like they were on the right track to treasure. It keeps going, Trudy said, continuing to read from the letter. I've spent my nights exploring the catacomb-like structure beneath the grounds, mapping it thoroughly. There's so much more that I haven't yet been able to solve, but I'm hoping that by the time I see you next, I'll have more to report. The mystery is nearly solved, my dear Mr. Newberry. Until our next correspondence, Wallace P. Gross. Trudy placed the letter back where she found it. There's no more letters after that. Thad must have come straight up to the chateau after he got this letter. Makes sense. Maybe something went wrong with the two between then and when his head exploded. That still doesn't explain Marcella's involvement. True, JJ thought for a moment. It could be what triggered the murder in the first place. Maybe Thad and Marcella had a prior involvement, where they knew they could get rich off the old man if they offed him. Maybe, said Trudy, or maybe they found out he wasn't as off the rails as they thought he was, and decided to grab the money for themselves. JJ placed the pile of clothes back on the suitcase. Luckily, neither of them can leave until this storm blows over, so we've got time. For now, though, I think I know where we need to go next. It's the end of chapter 6. Thank you for shouting out Puffy. Hi, Oscar. Hi, Coco. Thank you for shouting out Oscar. Thank you for shouting out Coco. Thank you for the Route 24 explanation. This book is very funny. It's funny though, because it seems like I don't know. It's just, this is funny. This book is funny. Like, it has like an actual mystery, but like it's also so funny. You're here for the subway part? Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. It's just going along fine. We love funny. Okay. Picture. Oh, right. Here it is, right. Yeah. Chapter 7. Exploration number 2. Valentine closed the door to their room behind him and breathed a huge sigh of relief. He found JJ and Trudy waiting expectantly for his return. How'd it go? Asked JJ. I think I might have just secured an advance for a 3-book series. Valentine plopped face down on the unoccupied second bed and heaved another sigh. Turns out odd-number boobs are a hot seller in the market. What? Asked Trudy. Valentine rolled over. It isn't important, and I'd like to scrub the preceding hour's conversation from my brain as soon as possible. What did you guys find out? Wallace and Thad and their publisher, Bradford and Bradford, were in a heated go-between for the better part of 3 years over a past-due manuscript, Trudy reported. JJ scoffed. Bradford and Bradford, those buffoons. They wouldn't know true art if it punched them in the nose. Anyway, said Trudy, Gross had actually been spending his time researching the treasure of John Henry Grande. Said he was close to finding it and he needed just a little more time. Valentine raised his eyebrows. You were right. So what happened next? Then Wallace P. Gross's head exploded and we found ourselves snowed in at a chateau with a suspicious-looking literary agent and a venom-filled old crone, both of whom either have very valid reasons to kill a writer or have verbally stated their projected enjoyment of killing said writer. You keep the letter? Asked Valentine. It could be useful evidence in case we need to take this to the police. Negative, Gumshoe, said JJ. That letter would do a better job of convicting us of breaking and entering than it would of solving this mystery. We've got more evidence to collect. So what's next? Asked Trudy. JJ reached into his satchel and produced 3 flashlights with the initials of the Grand Chateau monogrammed on them. We're going exploring. Where'd you get those? Asked Trudy. Can you believe people just leave these underneath a desk and behind a locked cabinet available for anyone to grab? Valentine sat up. Are we going back into the secret passageway? You betcha. We only saw the part of the passageway that led to the ballroom. I'd bet Vegas odds that there's more passageways to more parts of the chateau if we spend a little more time down there mapping it out. And who knows, maybe it'll lead to the treasure. Wallace had been searching for years and still came up short. A head short, said JJ. Stop it, said Valentine. I don't think finding the treasure is as simple as sneaking around some spooky secret hallways, but you're right, maybe there's a clue down there. So when do we go? Asked Trudy. Tonight. Midnight. And hey, De La Rosa, could you do me a favor? What's that? For the love of Christmas, please don't punch me in the nose again. The team arrived at the study just past midnight after everyone had gone to bed. A night manager was sleeping upright at the front desk. It didn't take much sneaking for the 3 to get past him. JJ didn't even bother bringing his lockpick set. He turned the handle to the study's door and they walked right in. The squeak was still gone. But the room was in a worse state than before. The blizzard had made its way in through the broken window and had claimed the desk as well as the rest of the floor. A light dusting of frost had covered the bloodstain where the body of Wallace P. Gross once was. Valentine walked up to the bookshelf at the far end of the room and wiped snow off of a shelf of books. Which was the one you pulled again? That old novel by Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills. You know, the one that was way ahead of its time? Valentine brushed the cover of a weighty tomb, unveiling the name of the extraordinarily intelligent and extremely handsome author. Cerberus from on high, Valentine read. What a phenomenal piece of art, said JJ. Valentine gave the book a pull, and a latch gave way behind the bookcase. The entire apparatus swung on a hinge, and the more Valentine pulled, the more it revealed the small passageway behind it. Ghost Hunters Adventure Club, this could be a dangerous mission, said JJ. This could even be our last mission depending on what's down there, so I'm going to need everyone on the squad to stay frosty. That goes double for you, newbie. JJ pointed an accusatory finger at Trudy, who rolled her eyes. Just stick to the plan, and remember to meet up back at the hotel room in case any of us get lost, JJ continued. Valentine, I'm going to forego the usual secret handshake due to current circumstances, but just know I'm secret handshaking you right now in my mind. Valentine nodded. Ready? Ready, Trudy and JJ chorused. They each turned on their flashlights and entered into the curved stone archway before them. Valentine immediately began shivering as they walked deeper into the passage. The beams of the flashlights fell off into the darkness before them. Here, said Valentine. This is where we turned to find the vent overlooking the ballroom. And where we overheard Marcella and Thad talking about their plans, said JJ. Do you think there could be anyone there now? Asked Trudy. JJ scratched his chin because he thought it was the right thing to do to make him seem smarter than he actually was. It'd be a good idea for us to go and check it out. But the ballroom was vacant. The team walked back to the fork in the passageway and went to the second path. It sloped downward, and their footsteps disturbed the dust and ice on the floor. Valentine coughed. Shh, said JJ. We don't know who could be listening in on us, or even where in the chateau we could be. The passageway grew smaller and smaller until it ended at a ledge leading downward. They peered over the cliff made out of long rotted wood, their flashlights illuminating a stone-cobbled platform just beneath it. JJ shook his head. Not it. Valentine sighed and got down on his knees, sliding down into the lower platform. I'm gonna go check this out. If I don't come back, remember me as a man who died doing what he loved. Here lies Valentine Watts, said JJ. Dude loved asbestos poisoning. Valentine dusted himself off and walked down the passageway just beyond the sights of Trudy and JJ's flashlights. They waited, listening to Valentine's footsteps grew more and more distant. Trudy, you know you get promoted if he dies? Guys, come over here! Valentine's voice came down from the hallway. Trudy and JJ worked their way down the ledge and followed the sound of Valentine's voice to where he was standing. To his left was another passageway leading off into darkness, but before him was a solid wall made out of the same cobblestones that surrounded them. Congratulations, said JJ. You found a wall. Not just any wall, Valentine replied. Look here. Trudy and JJ peered closer at two small holes in the cobblestone spaced inches away from each other. Dim light leaked from the other end. Squinting, they honed in on the front desk manager snoring at his desk at the other end of the room. It's the Chateau lobby, exclaimed JJ. Trudy pulled back from the peephole. We must be looking through the eyes of John Henry Grande, the ones in the huge lobby painting. Precisely, said Valentine. Whoever built these passageways must have used them to spy on the guests. I'll bet you there's more vents and peepholes looking out into different areas of the chateau. But why? Asked Trudy. Beats me, Valentine said with a shrug. It's starting to sound like John Henry Grande was as strange as Wallace was. Maybe that's why the author admired him so much. Two paranoid dead guys are not going to get us any closer to finding the treasure, said JJ. But it might give us an idea of why he hid the treasure in the first place, said Trudy. We should keep searching these passageways to see if there's any more clues here. They trudged onward, now having to hunch down to keep from hitting their heads on the low ceiling. JJ accidentally swallowed and spat out more centuries-old spider webs. The Ghost Hunters Adventure Club mapped out the secret passageways thusly. There were the lookout vents in the ballroom and in the lobby, of course. Traveling further into the labyrinth, they discovered spying ports through the base of the ornate candelabra in the library. There were additional viewports in the kitchen and bar areas of the lobby. The passageways snaked through the walls of the chateau, providing vantage points to every common area. Why don't any of the passages go into the sleeping areas? Asked JJ. Maybe that wasn't John Henry Grande's angle, Valentine surmised. I'm getting paranoid vibes from the guy, not creep vibes. There's a huge difference. They followed the pathways until they reached one final corner. Trudy reached out to feel a frigid draft. Is this the exit? One way to find out. JJ fought to stop his teeth from chattering. Remind me to put in an order for Ghost Hunters Adventure Club branded parkas when we get down the mountain. They pushed forward, following the pathway down deeper into the darkness. Any light that had seeped in through peepholes or cracks in the wall had vanished behind them, and before them the hallway sloped off further down toward a slatted metal grate, barely visible in the distance. The echoes of their footfalls on hard stone gave way to soft clunks of wood. JJ looked down to see fresh snow blowing in from the direction in which they were heading. This must lead out to the courtyard, based on where we are, said Trudy. Hey, how old do you think this wood is? JJ asked. The rotten planks gave way beneath the trio and sent them tumbling downward. The three screamed as they plummeted the short drop and landed with a thud on the floor beneath them. Trudy coughed as dust shot up into the air. Where are we? Valentine asked between wheezes. They got back to their feet and shined their flashlights around them. Directly in front of them stood a large stone door with carvings on it. Behind them appeared to be a corridor. Ah, sweet, said JJ. A sub-secret passageway. When you're adventuring, you're lucky enough to find just one secret passageway, but when you come across two, that's pay dirt. He walked up to the corridor behind them and shined his flashlight on it. The path had been partially obstructed by wooden poles running horizontally from either wall. JJ peered further in. Hey, have either of you ever seen a real human skeleton? Like not a fake one, but one that definitely looks real and like it's been rotting for a while? Trudy and Valentine cocked their heads at him. 'Cause I'm pretty sure this is one of those. The three adventurers grouped together at the mouth of the corridor and shined their lights through the wooden poles. Sure enough, there were the bones of a man propped standing up, the poles through his ribcage keeping him upright. What clothes hadn't rotted away hung in tatters off his body. Gnarly, Valentine commented. Trudy studied the skeleton intently. He must have been an adventurer searching for John Henry Grande's fortune. There, she pointed. He stepped on a pressure plate walking through this corridor and... Her finger rose to the wooden poles. Yep, spears to the chest. A booby trap, said JJ. Looks like it. I guess we already solved this particular puzzle. It looks like he was heading toward this door behind us, Valentine said. I guess by falling through that wooden floor upstairs, we must have dropped in part way through this labyrinth. JJ whistled. John Henry Grande, you continues to surprise me every day, you rich, eccentric, booby-trap building man. He walked back to the center of the room. Well, on to the next puzzle. Wait, said Trudy, we could get killed down here. Killed upstairs by a murderous lit agent, or crushed in the catacombs by an ingenious trap. What's the difference? There's treasure this way. Plus, we're the smartest detectives Harborville's ever seen. How true is that? Asked Trudy. Anyway, said JJ as he inspected the stone door at the other end of the room. Looks like there's an inscription here. He brushed the dust off the coarse stone of the door, revealing words finely engraved into it. To you, adventurer who seeks my riches, he read aloud. I have traveled the world and learned its secrets that I may never repeat to another living soul. I have designed this labyrinth so that only the truest of seekers may find my treasure. Good luck, I say to thee, and may you find what you are seeking. This fella had a thing for theatrics. There's another inscription down here. Valentine shone his light at the lower right-hand corner of the door. In much cruder handwriting than the previous inscription was another message. Beware the monster at the end of the maze. Looks like it was carved by a knife. Valentine took the room in again, examining the walls for any other inscriptions that might help them. On the leftmost wall, he spotted rows of small holes spaced uniformly apart. Inspecting it closer, he counted 10 rows down and 4 columns across. He couldn't see further than an inch or two down the holes when he shined his light down them. Raising his hand up, he made to probe one of the holes with his index finger. Hey, look at this, said JJ. Valentine turned to follow the beam of his brother's flashlight. Just below the inscription, a small clearing was made at the bottom of the door by a wooden pole. I guess somebody propped it up, said Trudy. JJ crouched down and pointed his flashlight under the opening in the stone door. The beam fell off just feet away, revealing nothing but loose gravel on the ground. Well, at the very least, the hole is valve-shaped. Wait, said Valentine. You're not telling me I should... Come on. JJ got up and dusted the dirt off his pants. You said you wanted adventure, and you got some claustrophobic-looking adventure right here. I'm not gonna... No, of all the dumb ideas you've had, I'm not gonna crawl into the abyss. We should come back more prepared. With what? You want me to call up the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club branded excavation team? You want me to see if I can drag over my boy Drew from the docks to haul his industrial crane up here? No, especially because me and Drew aren't on speaking terms anymore. I hope he's well. Whenever we gotta do anything dangerous, you always volunteer me for the job, JJ. Valentine whined. Okay, smart guy, name one time when I put you in danger. You lowered me into shark-infested waters with a crane on the dock job. First of all, it wasn't even shark season, so you weren't in mortal danger. Second of all, I just realized why Drew and I don't talk anymore. Guys, I made it. Trudy's voice came from the other side of the stone door. JJ and Val dropped to the floor to spot her flashlight beam scanning the new room. Trudy! JJ exclaimed. Exemplary showcase of courage and conviction under fire. I'm sure some other members of the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club could learn a thing or two from your can-do attitude. Valentine flicked a pebble at his brother's face. JJ responded by punching him in the arm. Valentine punched him back. JJ put Valentine in a headlock and demanded that he say uncle before letting him go. Valentine broke the headlock by punching JJ in the stomach. This was the thing the two regularly did. Trudy, said Valentine, what do you see? They heard shuffling from the other side of the stone door. The light from her flashlight swept under the door, illuminating the boys' faces. It's a huge room, she said. I can't see the end of it. The pebbles crackling under her feet grew fainter. I'm going to go see what I can see. Be safe, I guess, said JJ. The two brothers stood and dusted themselves off before sitting up against the wall. Want to take bets on whether she'll come back or not? Valentine shot a glance at his brother. Do you ever, for just one moment, take anything seriously? What? I'm plenty serious. We just fell through a trapdoor into a secret cavern that might have treasure at the other end of it if it doesn't kill us first. I'm not asking you to lose your patented JJ charm, which has gotten us arrested as a non-zero amount of times. I just think that maybe you should quit trying to lighten the mood at every chance you get. It's unbecoming of a gentleman. JJ thumbed his nose and coughed up a bit of cave dust. He sighed. Time passed. The sound of Trudy's footfalls could no longer be heard. Valentine asked his brother, You good? Yeah. You good? Yeah. JJ slid back to the ground and shone his flashlight under the crack of the stone door. He could see nothing but dust particles suspended in the air. Hey, Trudy, he called. He waited for an answer. Trudy! No response came. Valentine, what should we do? Before Valentine could respond, the boys heard the faint patter of feet from the other side of the door growing louder and louder. It's her! Exclaimed JJ. She's running, said Valentine. Why is she running? The footfalls grew louder until Trudy slid to the opening of the door. Their flashlights illuminated her panicked face. Get me out! I'm not alone down here! Behind her and in the distance, they heard a soft scraping noise. Metal against rock. Shunk, shunk, shunk. It grew louder. It was getting closer. The brothers reached out their hands and grabbed hold of Trudy. She dropped her flashlight and took each of them by the wrists. Shunk, shunk, shunk. The noise was nearly on top of them. Pull! Yelled JJ. The stone door was a tight fit, but the fear and panic of the situation made pulling Trudy through the hole that much more difficult. The noise was right behind her. Something grabbed her leg, and she screamed. It's got me! JJ and Valentine pulled harder against the unseen assailant. It was a tug of war, and Trudy was the rope. Valentine felt like they were losing her as she was pulled back further from the stone door. You gotta do something, yelled JJ. Give it a kick, kid! Trudy took her free leg and kicked with all her might against whatever was holding her. She flailed wildly, kicking again and again. A loud grunt echoed through the cavernous room when she connected with what she could only assume was a face. For a brief moment, she saw the man's hand gripped around her leg before it released. A body rolled backward onto the ground behind her. I'm free, she yelled. The brothers pulled one last time and dragged Trudy through the small hole created by the propped-up stick. As she slid through, she knocked the pole, propping the door out of place, and the stone door slammed shut with a resounding thud. Trudy, Valentine, and JJ panted for breath on the floor of the secret passageway. Valentine felt as if he were about to have a heart attack. I try my hardest not to swear, JJ said between gasps for air, because I think anyone who can't find the proper words to use in a situation out of all the words in the English dictionary might lack a certain sense of creativity. He got up to his knees and pointed at the stone door. But what the hell was that? I don't know, said Trudy. I was exploring the room. It was huge and I couldn't find another exit. I got to the other end when I heard what sounded like digging. As soon as it got close, it stopped. And footsteps were walking toward me, and that's when I ran back to you guys. Well, whatever or whoever it was, I think we just locked it in there, said JJ. Valentine nodded. As long as they're not strong enough to open the door. JJ glanced at the other two. We should probably go, huh? They dusted themselves off and climbed their way carefully out of the trapdoor they had created for themselves. They retraced their steps out of the stone passageways leading back to the chateau and through the secret entrance in Wallace's study, making their way back to the boys' room without seeing anyone. Luck was on their side, at least some of the time. End of chapter 7. Dr. Cecil, what are you thinking? For the love of Christmas. I'm using that. That self-insert, though, yeah. Coco, you should do that. Self-insert. I mean, who doesn't love asbestos poisoning? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hi, Paige. You only missed, I think, one chapter. Thank you for shouting out, Paige. I say we call our boy Drew at the docks. Impressive charm to get one arrested. How do you spell that sound? It was S-H-U-N-K. Shunk. Hi, CJ. Thank you for shouting out, CJ. Did you just say the H word? I came to this family-friendly stream. I am shocked. I did. Should I have subbed it out for heck? Class Hermes swearing chapter 7. Should I have subbed it out for heck? Have I ruined my entire reputation? I drank a lot of that water. Heck is always good. It reminds me of Rocco's Modern Life every time. It's okay, V. Imagine you reading Wanderers on stream. No, I would have been like, flip. Here's the pineapple of heck and the lamp of heck. Heaven or heck. You fine. Thank you. I'm really enjoying this story. I mean, like, just, like, humor is good. I think pacing is good. The characters are fun. I just think this is very good. No, I'm still going, Moocher. I'm still going. But you might have... I think you missed the previous book stream. Because I read the first 5 chapters previously. This is a Gudetama shirt. Isn't him cute? Hee. Guide Tampa. Yeah. I've just read 2 chapters so far today. Okay. Picture. Chapter 8. A Hypothesis. Well, it could have been worse, JJ said, locking the door to their hotel room at the Grand Chateau. He pushed a wooden desk up against the door for added safety. We could have lost the new recruit, and we all know how pricey it is to find a new talent after you've trained the old one. That's not funny. We could have died 20 different ways down there, said Valentine. Yeah, and the number 1 complaint of any human resources department of any business is how costly the hiring process is. We should all count our lucky stars. In any case, what'd we learn tonight? There's a secret passageway that lets you get to any part of the chateau undetected, said Trudy. And beneath that is another secret passageway that has a bunch of booby traps. Wallace P. Gross must have been down there, Valentine surmised. He could have been the one to prop open the stone door in the first place if he already knew about it. We can't be sure if that was him, JJ said. That's sloppy police work. Thad or anyone else who knew about the secret passageways could have gotten through that door if they knew about it. Plus, it doesn't really seem like they've solved the puzzle, Trudy said. Brute forcing a door and keeping it propped up doesn't seem like a Wallace thing to do. There was a panel of holes on the sidewall, Valentine remarked. Maybe that could have been the key to solving it. JJ looked out the window at the still roaring blizzard. The weather hadn't let up and only appeared to be getting worse from the looks of it. Here's a hypothesis, he said. What if the person who grabbed you in that cavern was Thad? Where are you going with this? Asked Valentine. Hear me out. Thad knew about the secret passageway thanks to Wallace's letters. It makes sense that he would find the passageway beneath the chateau. Perhaps in a different way from how we found it, but it's not entirely unreasonable that he could come across it. So he spends his nights solving the puzzles down there with the help of Marcella, who might not be strong enough to open a heavy stone door, but is definitely smart enough to avoid getting impaled by spikes. It would explain why Marcella meets with Thad, said Trudy, and it makes sense that they would want to avoid arousing suspicion. That must mean we left Thad down there in the cavern, said JJ. Unless he's strong enough to get through that door, or smart enough to finish the puzzle to get out of there without dying. He wouldn't try to, said Valentine. A smart man knows when and where he's dumb, and who to ask for help. He said that to me when I was pitching Boob Quest to him. Boob Quest? Trudy echoed. That is not important. Look, if that's Thad and we really did trap him down there, he's smart enough to wait for Marcella to come down and rescue him. If we can pin down Thad in the secret cavern, and then have Deputy Park find the correspondences between him and Wallace in his room, that has to be enough for an arrest, said JJ. But what about Marcella? Asked Trudy. What about Marcella indeed? JJ thought for a moment. All right, Trudes. I've got a mission for you. Marcella P. Gross has been way too suspicious and obviously knows something we don't. We need you to find out what that is. Why me? It's taken me all of 2 days to realize you could probably crush both of us with your mind if you truly felt the desire to. Marcella's got a whip for a tongue and might try to trick you into selling your soul to the devil in exchange for a blues guitar, but if anyone has a shot at interrogating her and finding out exactly how and why those 2 literary types offed Wallace, it's you. Trudy nodded. I can do it. That's the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club spirit. But how should I do it? A very good question, replied JJ. One that I don't know the answer to. Frankly, and this is me being vulnerable with my truths here, but frankly, I'm afraid to even look at the woman. You could try to appeal to her sensibilities, Valentine suggested. Maybe there's some common ground you two could find that would make her trust you? You don't, perchance, have a gland in your mouth that spits acid as self-defense, do you? Asked JJ. No, Trudy replied, but I think I can figure something out. End of chapter 8. That was a short one. Happy Friday, Coley. How's it going? I'm awaiting a severe storm to get here, but it seems to be moving slow, but I keep getting alerts. There's a warning in my area, even though it hasn't gotten here yet. Wow. It was storming really bad last night. I woke up because so I have 2, like, very tall IKEA cabinets, and I keep various knickknacks, and, like, all my K-pop albums are there on display, like, all my knickknacks, mugs, a lot of my Pokemon strategy guides are there. So I just use it, like, as, like, nice display storage. And I woke up because it was, like, rattling at like 3 a.m. And then I have a sun hat that hangs on my bedpost, like on my headboard, and it fell off like onto my head while I was sleeping because it was the thunder. There was just like thunder was rattling the house. It was crazy. Thank you for shouting out, Coley. What is this quest? So in the chapter that you missed, chapter 6, Valentine has to distract Thad Newberry. So he has to come up with like a book pitch for him. And Thad was not interested until Valentine was like, but what if the villain had 3 boobs? And then he was able to like pitch the book. It was just silly. So that's the boob quest thing. Oh! You could be a part-time model. You probably still have to keep your knowledge out. A part-time model. Spend part of your time modeling. Thank you for the song. And for the bits that you didn't have to pay, but thank you for the song. With 3 boobs. Beautiful. Did someone mention Gudetama? I'm wearing a Gudetama shirt. Hello, Kai in Space Arps. Hi, how you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. Yes, I have a Gudetama shirt on. That's why we mentioned it. I'm doing okay. I think I caught a cold, so I didn't sleep well. Oh, no! I got in on your bookcase? Huh? What? Oh, knickknacks. I got it. Yes, please feel better, Coley. Oh my gosh. This sounds like my professional writing instructor. Hi, Disney. I'm a strong bibliophile, so I love book streams. Well, welcome. I do those kind of often. I do gaming streams as well, but I do like the book streams. So welcome. Books are great for sure. Okay, shall we continue? I've only been going for 49 minutes. I'd like to go for at least an hour and a half. So we got a few more chapters left. This is how far we are in the book. Only this far. We still have all of this to do. I'd say we're like a little over a third, maybe. I'm surprised Disney showed up. Well, Disney doesn't like reading books, but I feel like Disney doesn't mind being read to. He just doesn't want to do the work. Okay. Here's the picture. Chapter 9. The Parlor Accusation Scene. Sitting at the front desk of the Grand Chateau, Trudy yawned. The events of the previous night had been exhausting, and she stayed up even longer trying to figure out what to say to Marcella. She ended up studying the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club field manual's section on advanced interrogation techniques, since it was the only literature on it she had. She scanned the lobby. No sign of Marcella P. Gross, however, she spotted JJ and Valentine Watts in the back of the restaurant having breakfast. JJ had his usual stack of pancakes, waffles, eggs, bacon, Canadian bacon, and turkey bacon that he ordered off menu. He had on a dumb fedora that he'd lifted from the Lost and Found, wore it tilted, and peeked out at her as inconspicuously as possible from behind a newspaper. She could tell he was keeping tabs on her in case anything were to go wrong, and he had to, in his own words, throw elbows. The blizzard raged on outside. From last she heard, it should be ending soon, but it blew with the same ferocity now as it had the night before. Even when it ended, it wouldn't be over. The denizens of the Grand Chateau would then have to contend with their gargantuan snowdrifts before they could finally get down the mountain. The team had spent the entire morning trying to locate Thad Newberry. Going up to his room and listening through the door proved fruitless, not even sports on TV. None of them spotted him in the common hallways of the chateau. JJ held on to the theory that they had locked Thad in a secret passageway beneath the chateau that led into the mountain the night before. If that were the case, they would have to solve the mystery soon, or else another person's life could be at stake. The elevator dinged, and Marcella P. Gross stepped out in a black dress, black fur coat, black fur hat, and a set of white pearls as accent. She marched in a direct line toward Trudy, whose heart began racing. She had expected that she would have to track the writer's ex-lover down later in the day, hopefully with enough time to come up with a better idea than the none she had. Beads of sweat began to form on her brow as the woman arrived at the front desk. "Good morning. I've come to once again complain about the amenities of this establishment." Trudy's eyes darted back and forth in search of a response. She caught eyes with JJ from across the room. He nodded encouragingly from behind the funny pages of the newspaper. What seems to be the problem, Miss Gross?" "Nice, good start, Trudy." Marcella let out a long sigh. "Once again, your hotel staff has placed my bedsheet in such a way that the tag is at the head of the bed. It doesn't take a world-class establishment to know that the tag is meant for the foot of the bed. How am I supposed to get my rest if I have to spend half the night stripping my bed and rearranging my sheets?" Here was an inn if Trudy ever saw one. "You know," she said, "I've yelled at the housekeeping staff on more than one occasion about their lack of attention to detail when it comes to bedsheet tags, Miss Gross. I don't care if they're freshly washed, that side of the bed is where feet go, and I'll not hear another word of it." Marcella raised an eyebrow suspiciously. "I'll bet." Deciding she needed to drive this further home, Trudy leaned in for effect. "I even once caught them putting on pillowcases inside out. Unforgivable!" Marcella couldn't help but gasp at the thought of such cavalier attitudes toward hotel amenities. "Well, I hope you give them yet another tongue lashing for my sake. The nerve of some people when it comes to bedding. Miss Gross, it will not be the first time, and may regrettably not be the last. It will not be the first time, and may regrettably not be the last. But give me time and resources, and I will have this chateau in proper working shape as soon as possible." "Thank you," Marcella said in the tone one takes when they finally feel understood. She turned to leave, but doubled back upon a thought. "I may have been wrong about you. I initially took you for an apathetic teen, without a care for the hospitality, but you've got a good head on your shoulders." Trudy saw her window open and knew it would close in moments. It was now or never. "I know much more about this place than I usually let on." Marcella's eyes narrowed, her trademark coldness coming back in full force. "Is that so?" she said, closing the distance between them. The desk was the only thing to protect Trudy from Marcella's overbearing presence. "I think I can help you with your current predicament, if help is what you're looking for." Marcella's eyes became slits. She was smart enough to know that Trudy wasn't talking about hotel amenities anymore. "Choose your next words carefully, girl. There's no telling if they could be your last." Trudy couldn't help gulping at the threat. In a cracked voice that betrayed her lack of confidence, she said, "Beware the monster at the end of the maze." The ex-lover's eyes widened and she drew back with a gasp. "What are you even talking about?" "Listen, I know things you might already know, and I know things you definitely don't know. I know you and Thad have been in league, but I think I have something I can add to the team if you'd let me. Maybe we could help each other." Marcella's expression changed from one of confusion to one of shock to one of anger in the space of moments. She drew back and slapped Trudy with all her might. Trudy gasped in pain. "Don't you dare try to butt into my private affairs!" The entire lobby full of patrons fell dead silent upon hearing a slap. Everyone looked in their direction. Trudy felt her face grow red in equal parts pain and embarrassment. "Well, my time to shine," said JJ. He threw his newspaper down and tossed off his fedora, leaving the restaurant area and neglecting to pay for the breakfast or even charge it to another room. Valentine finished his orange juice and followed. He had no idea what his brother was doing, but knew from experience that he didn't want to be left alone with a breakfast bill. Letting anger overtake her, Trudy drew back her fist, aiming straight for Marcella P. Gross's jaw. Everyone, can I please have your attention?" JJ stood near the top of the grand staircase of the lobby, managing to turn everyone's attention from Trudy and Marcella to him. "Gather around, everyone. I have an important announcement to make." The patrons of the Grand Chateau slowly formed a semicircle around the base of the stairs. Everyone looked around to each other quizzically. "Is everyone here? Yes, keep gathering round. Don't be shy." Valentine joined up with the semicircle of patrons and looked around to study their faces. He spotted Deputy Park looking like steam was about to blow out of his ears. Madame Fournier and the rest of the hotel staff stood around with confused looks on their faces. He spotted the groundskeeper wiping dirt off his hands. He spotted the 20 other hotel patrons who'd been snowed in with everyone else. He did not spot Thad Newberry. "Yes, even you two." JJ motioned over to Trudy and Marcelo, who both reluctantly joined the crowd at the bottom of the stairs. "Right, yes, thank you, everyone, for joining me this morning in the place where we're literally all stuck. As many of you know, tensions have been running high at the Chateau due to the untimely demise of our dear friend and my posthumous client, Wallace P. Gross." Deputy Park groaned. "Here we go again." "Yes, thank you, Deputy Park. Here we do go again. The reason why I've called you all here at the base of the steps is because I've solved the murder." A shockwave of gasps rolled through the crowd, and the guests whispered to each other. Madame Fournier pushed her way to the front to reach JJ. "Just what is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "Justice, Madame Fournier." The hotelier looked angrily toward Deputy Park. "Why are you letting these children whip my hotel patrons into a panic?" "They pull shenanigans like this all the time," said the deputy. "They won't shut up until they get whatever it is off their chest. We might as well just let them get it over with." Madame Fournier folded her arms and huffed. "They're making a mockery of my fine establishment." "A mockery, yes," said JJ. "Let's all have a good laugh at how quickly the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club solved the mystery." The Ghost Hunters Adventure Club, Harborville's foremost private investigation unit, available at a discount if you bring in the coupon from our website. Act now and get 33% off of our Ghost Hunter Adventures Club branded merchant. "Oh, come on, get on with it already," Deputy Park shouted. "Pardon me, Deputy. This is the first time I've gotten to do a classic Agatha Christie-style parlor accusation scene, and I'm relishing the opportunity." "Child, I will karate chop you in the throat." "That may be the truth, and I dare say I invite you to try, old man, but please allow me a moment of your time. I promise it will be worth it once you've heard my story." Deputy Park folded his arms and let out a grumpy harumph. "Splendid. As I was saying, just a few short days ago, our dear Wallace P. Gross was cruelly wrested from this earthly plane." JJ motioned with a dramatic flourish to the study at the top of the stairs and down the hallway. He started up the last few steps and headed down the hall toward the large wooden double doors that once kept Wallace and his work from the outside world. This way. Don't be shy," JJ said to the crowd. Trudy made her way to the front of the group with Valentine. JJ stood in front of the doors. Behind this door is the answer to the mystery of the Grand Chateau. The answer to how and why our Wallace P. Gross was murdered. JJ had them all by the ear now, and he knew it. He threw open the double doors and stepped into the snow-covered room, taking care to avoid the frosted stains of blood on the floor. "According to our hard-working yet ultimately incorrect friend of the police state here," JJ said, motioning over to Deputy Park. "Watch it," Park replied. "Wallace P. Gross was supposedly shot from outside the chateau. Note the shards of glass that should have been broken toward us, and how they had been actually ejected out of the window, which," JJ peered out through the broken window and onto the snowdrift below, "has thusly been obscured by elemental efforts beyond our control. Excellent." The whole crowd had joined JJ in the study, some flowing into the hallway outside. JJ could feel that he was beginning to lose them with his failed evidence reveal. He had to razzle with the rest of the evidence from here on out. "Now, presupposing our correctness with the glass until such a time affords it that a state-sponsored forensics team can confirm it, let's move forward with a timeline of events. 1. Wallace P. Gross invites my brother and me on a tour of the Grand Chateau. 2. He leads us into his study. 3. His head explodes, covering both my brother and me in rider blood and incapacitating our natural talent of sight. So I ask you, if not from outside, how could Wallace P. Gross have been shot and killed from behind closed doors with only myself, my brother, and Wallace P. Gross in the room?" "We haven't ruled you two out yet," Deputy Park said with tired indignation. "When we found them here, they were raving in a panic, shouting, and I quote," Trudy piped up, oh no, his head exploded. What's going on? What's in my eyes? Is that rider blood?" She adjusted her glasses for dramatic effect. One of the suggestions in the Ghost Hunter Adventures Club field manual was to always have a prop to work with when making dramatic gestures. In any case, they were drenched in Wallace's blood. Even a rudimentary blood splatter analysis would suggest that Wallace was shot from behind them. "Fine," said Deputy Park. "Would you please hurry it up?" Okay. JJ paced around the room in a long arc as he spoke, rounding the desk to the bookshelf behind it. "The question here, as with all other great detective stories, is not who did it and how, but why. Let me warn you fine folk of the Grand Chateau that the killer, or should I say killers, are here in this room and among all of you right now. And their names are," he pointed with an accusatory finger and summoned his adult accusation voice, "Marcella P. Gross." A shockwave of gasps rippled through the crowd, who all turned toward Marcella. Her mouth fell agape. She readied herself to speak, but JJ beat her to the punch. And her accomplice was none other than Thad Newberry, Wallace P. Gross's literary agent. More gasps from the crowd, who had become more than accustomed to performative gasping at this point. They all turned their heads to spot the second accused, but could not find him anywhere. "I bet you're all wondering where Thad is," said JJ with a smirk. "Well, here's where things get interesting." JJ leaned against the fake bookshelf. What no one knew during the initial investigation was that between the walls of the Grand Chateau exists a vast network of secret passageways that lead to different rooms and a bevy of spying vantage points throughout the common areas. An actual, literal gasp escaped from the crowd at this point. They spoke amongst themselves, wondering what strange things they thought the killers had seen them doing under assumed privacy. "Don't worry," JJ assured the gathering. "This isn't a sexy spying thing, at least not in this case. You see, if the gunshot didn't come from outside, then it had to come from somewhere, and that somewhere was right before our very eyes, hiding in plain sight." JJ pulled on the Dr. Cecil H. Mills book with a grand flourish. It fell to the floor. He took a deep breath. "Valentine, that was the right book, right?" Yeah," said Valentine. "Well, that certainly took the wind out of my sails." JJ began pulling on all the books he could get his hands on, ejecting them from the bookcase and onto the floor. Nothing caused the bookcase to magically swing open as it previously had. He grabbed either side of it and tried shaking it like a vending machine that had done him wrong, but nothing budged. Turning around in a huff, he addressed the perplexed crowd. "Okay, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it that there's a secret passageway behind this door that Marcella P. Gross and Thad Newberry used to assassinate Wallace in order to take not only his wealth, but the wealth of John Henry Grande that Wallace had secretly discovered." "Hold on just a minute," said Deputy Park. "You can't just run around and accuse someone of murder with absolutely no evidence to back it up." Marcella literally clutched the literal pearls around her neck. "How could you accuse me of... Why in the world would you..." JJ jumped back into the offensive. "Listen, I know I can't absolutely prove it to you right now, but you have to take my word for it that there is something behind this bookcase. I don't know why it isn't opening, but if you just give me enough time, I will figure it out." "You outstayed your welcome 2 botched cases ago," said Deputy Park. "Valentine and I were back there. We explored further into the secret passageway with Trudy from the front desk over there. Tell him, Trudy." "You did what?" Madame Fournier shrieked. Trudy shrank herself down in the crowd, her face turning red once again. "I had suspicions that you were leaving your post at night, but I had no idea you were using that time to sneak around the chateau and pester guests." Trudy stared down at her feet, not knowing what to say, but definitely understanding that silence was a valid option here. "We will discuss this later," said Madame Fournier in a decidedly you-will-be-fired kind of tone. JJ felt his grip on the situation loosening. "The night of Wallace P. Gross's murder, we overheard a heated conversation between Marcella and Thad. Do you remember that conversation, Miss Gross? Let's just make sure we're not seen together for the rest of our stay here. That should be enough to throw people off the scent." Marcella stared, mouth agape, at JJ. This was perhaps the first time since he had met her that her expression betrayed her usual ice-cold demeanor. Tears were welling up in her eyes. "And just where is Thad?" said JJ. "Well, it turns out that there was more to the secret passageway than we had initially thought. And who else should we find down there but Thad Newberry?" "Did you actually see him? Or is this another one of your half-truths?" asked Deputy Park. "Well, we didn't see him. It was dark and we were being chased, but we managed to escape his grasp and trap him in one of the rooms of the underground passageway. And that's why," JJ said, feeling like he was winning over the crowd again, "if you look around right now, you'll note that everyone here is present and accounted for except Thad Newberry. Where is he, I ask, if not trapped underground after having murdered Wallace P. Gross and then using his manuscript to try and steal John Henry Grande's fortune from right under all our noses?" "Wait," said Deputy Park. "Even if I believed you, which I guarantee you that I do not, did you literally just admit to trapping someone and allowing them to freeze to death in an underground passage?" "Yes," JJ said, but immediately went on to qualify. "But it was a life-or-death situation that left us with no other choice. Plus, I think the insulation is pretty good down there, don't you think, Val?" "It was pretty good insulation," Valentine said, nodding. "What are we all talking about?" Thad Newberry said from the back of the crowd. The entire group of hotel patrons craned their heads to see the man in nothing but sunglasses and a towel. Well, 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 said JJ, trying to spin this in his favor. If it isn't the man of the hour, how'd you escape from the stone door? How'd I escape from the what? Don't play dumb with me. We know that you murdered Wallace P. Gross in order to obtain his wealth and the wealth of John Henry Grande. I did what? The jig's up, Thad. You and Marcella conspired to kill Wallace. You knew about the secret passageways. We have evidence to back this all up that you didn't hear on account of you coming here late because you finally escaped from under the stone door and then I guess took a shower. Jeez, said Thad. A guy wakes up late and takes a shower and walks outside forgetting his room key and this is how he's treated? But you weren't in your room, Valentine said. You always keep sports on the television even when you're sleeping. This morning it wasn't on. You only turn it off when you're not around. You are correct, said Thad. He began visibly perspiring. So where were you, book boy? Asked JJ. I was... Thad stammered. He looked around the room at all of the inquisitive faces of the patrons of the Grand Chateau. His eyes darted from person to person, searching for anything that would help him. Fine. I'll confess. The sea of patrons parted to reveal Marcella P. Gross, tears streaming down her face. He was with me, she said, her voice a crackling, sobbing mess. In my hotel room. We've been having an affair. It was JJ's turn to gasp dramatically. What? Well, I suppose it wasn't exactly an affair. Wallace and I have long since been divorced, but if he ever found out, I knew it would destroy him. That's why I've been keeping it under wraps for so long. Thad Newberry hung his head in shame. It's true. Ah, jeez, said JJ, pinching the bridge of his nose and wincing. That's what you meant when you said let's just make sure we're not seen together for the rest of our stay here? You two were knocking boots? We were romantically intertwined, yes, said Marcella. She sighed deeply, looking around the room. Wallace even delivered a note to me the day before he died. At least I think it was him. It was in his handwriting, but it was cut in half. I couldn't make out what it said. It's probably just Wallace being his usual self, thinking that his life was a mystery novel. She wiped the tears from her eyes. I regret how I treated him. If only I could speak to him one last time. Summoning her courage, she put on a brave face that resembled her usual scowl. Now that my indiscretion has been exposed to the entirety of this chateau, am I free to go? JJ's face felt hot. No further questions, ma'am. Deputy Park took control of the room. Okay, not that I was holding anyone here, but you're all free to go about your day and do whatever it is you've been doing. I think I might sit down to brunch myself if anyone's interested. The entire crowd began dispersing out of the study and back down to the lobby. JJ discreetly tried to join his brother in the crowd, avoiding eye contact with Deputy Park. Except for you two, said Deputy Park, grabbing the brothers by their collars. He squared up to the two boys, puffing out his chest, and looked like he was ready to explode. I've long since had it up to here with you two, but this is a brand new level of trouble you boys have gotten into. We were just trying to help, Valentine said in their defense. Help? Deputy Park scoffed. The only thing you two helped do was to embarrass a widow in front of an entire chateau's worth of people. I hope you're both proud of yourselves. Listen, said JJ. No, you listen, you little punk. This is a real-life crime scene, and your all-American boy detective act has done nothing but make things worse and potentially have you committing more crimes. This is your last warning. If I even catch a whiff of you two trying to snoop around, I will throw you off of this mountain myself. It's the end of chapter 9. I like being read to. I'm a child. I don't know anything about books being great. You're missing out. Picture caption. Objection! Pro elbow thrower. Throw them elbows. It would be hard to throw an elbow since it's just a connection of bones, right? So you technically have to throw an entire arm to throw an elbow. I have to say that now. If you don't leave me alone, we're gonna throw elbows. I have them nice bony elbows. They're very pointy for maximum damage. Okay, hope the weather's okay. Stripping? That side of the bed is where the feet go. IDK, sometimes I put my feet where the heads go. Clearly a Minotaur in that monster maze. Minotaur. The Schlappa did scare me. It was funny. Yeah, I was just confused for a second. I was like, what's here when you hear a distant Schlappa? In your own voice, no less. Yeah, Schlappa is a slap. That's what it is. How did I not know it was from something? Yeah, it was when me and Tara did a joint Nuzlocke of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And I had a tan growth that I named that somebody named Tangelsa. And every time I used Vine Whip, it was her slapping. Chala will karate trap you in the throat. Yeah, I missed you, Deputy Park. Me too. Years of fart jokes, overreacting to video games being bad, despite the game literally telling you exactly how to play it, but skipping over the tutorials and giggle fits on YouTube for years. Yeah. Razzle dazzle them. Exactly. And raging at games. Also tricking your longtime friend with up dog. What's up dog? Opposite of down cat, pretty sure. Ooh-wee. Book boy. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad the storm's weakened. Joint. Elbow, Nuzlocke. I see what you did there. Okay. Shall we continue? Maybe one more chapter, depending on how long it is. Picture. Chapter 10. Interlude. Well, it would appear we're far enough into the book that I can assume the literary agents and early reviewers have stopped reading by this point, so I think that affords us time to have a little chat. Hello, reader, it's me. Best-selling author and 1985 record holder for most swear words used in an interview in 1 minute, Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills. I hope you're comfortable wherever you're reading this, whether in your favorite comfy chair, at the library, or in the event that this book has lasted into the near future, on your allotted 6-minute break underground in the salt mine that the robots have forced you to harvest. They can't harvest it themselves because the salt corrodes their circuitry. Remember this and rise up. I'm where I've been since the last time we checked in, still tapping away happily in my snowy mountain escape in the woods. I've been here for the last few weeks and have been enjoying my lack of human contact. The only people I've talked to so far are the mailman, the gentleman at the corner down the way, and the sock puppet I created for whenever I feel the overwhelming need to scream at someone. There is one other person, though. I see him infrequently and always at night. He stands at the edge of the woods on my property, just far enough in the brush to obfuscate his face and body. He doesn't move, even when I shine a flashlight on him. But when the light bounces back at me, I always see a flash of steel. Is he holding something in his hand? Why does he stare at me? Is he staring through me? Sometimes I wake up at night to a light scratching at the windowsill in my bedroom. Metal against glass. I'm too paralyzed with fear to move, so I just lie there and listen. The scraping turns to tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Eventually the tapping becomes a whispered voice. Cecil. Cecil, come outside, it says. Come pay for your sins. It's easy, Cecil. You just have to unlock your door and come outside. I'm sure the two things are wholly unrelated, but just in case they might not be, I figured I'd mention it. I should leave something for him in case he gets hungry. Maybe he likes baked bread? Anyway, reader, I'm sure your time is as valuable as mine, so let me try to make this chapter useful for you. In case you have to write a book report on Ghost Hunters Adventure Club and the secret of the Grand Chateau, I'll just go ahead and tell you the things you need to know to make it as easy as possible. The theme of this book is that children are idiots. Now, before you go writing angry letters to me, dear reader, dear sweet reader, beloved, beautiful, darling reader that I cherish, you paid for this book, and for you to do that, I believe that puts you an intellectual cut above the rest. You're cool. Keep up the good work, buddy. The Watts brothers, however, should not be trusted to tie their own shoes, let alone go and solve a mystery. By this point, they have committed so much obstruction of justice that it would supply enough material for a different crime-solving duo to take them down in a brand new series of detective novels. The very instance of them entering a crime scene the way they did would, by letter of the law, render all of that evidence inadmissible in court. Their actions are reckless, dangerous, and all around incompetent by any rational person's standards. This book exists as a cautionary tale to all of you who read it, so that you may avoid the mistakes caused by and befallen unto these two half-wits. But hey, adventures sell books, right? That's what the kids want to read, right? At least according to my lit agent, that's what they want. The kids these days don't want the real page-turners, not like the books of yesteryear. No publisher would take my 1,003-page treatise on the human condition or my collection of short stories exploring interpersonal interconnectedness through the lens of a man who saw the future, but only as far as the next time he farted. So here I am in my cabin punching out boy detective novels on my time-tested Remington Elytra I bought once in a thrift store that had strange symbols from some Baltic state. Feel free to mention all of that in your book report. Let me give you some easier things to write about. The motorcycle I mentioned in the first chapter that I guarantee you will not come up again in this or any one of my other books was missing its kickstand. Feel free to write a 500-word essay about how that missing kickstand represents a fractured sense of shared self between the brothers. The scar on JJ's nose is that he doesn't like talking about represents a past he's running away from, that like I'm running away from, that we're all running away from. You can cite this section of the book as a primary source because I, the writer, am telling you what it means. If you try to suggest otherwise, I will phone your teacher and argue for a lower grade. I guarantee I have the time and enough impotent rage to do that. What else? Well, let's move on to the other books in your curriculum. The green light at the end of the harbor in The Great Gatsby represents Jay Gatsby's love of marijuana. The grapes in the Grapes of Wrath represent the pair of stones that John Steinbeck must have had to expect me to read all the way through that snorefest. Holden Caulfield is a whiny baby and you can't even play baseball in a field of rye. Hold on, my phone's ringing. I walk over to the one rotary landline telephone in my cabin, my only electric connection with the outside world. The phone rings 3 times before I pick it up. Hello, I say. Mr. Mills, it's me, JJ Watts. I know, I say, because I'm the one writing this right now. I'm having the conversation in my head and I'm putting it into a typewriter. I know it's a little metaphysical, but please try to stick with me. I hear silence on the other end of the line and I remember that I forget something. Also, it's Dr. Mills. Remember, I have a doctorate. Right, so anyway, you probably know why I'm calling, being that you're the one holding the reins, right? You're calling because you're at a dead end and you need some hints to solve the mystery. Exactly. Well, I'm sorry, son, I'm not running a wayward home for lost sleuths here. I pulled the receiver away from my ear and began to put it away, knowing full well that JJ isn't done here. Wait! I put the receiver back to my ear. Cut me a little slack. This is our first book and we're in a pretty rough spot. I tried to do the parlor room accusation thing, but it completely backfired and you made an old lady cry. I know. See, kid, your problem was that you were too quick to come to a conclusion, and you let that drive your detective work, making you bend clues to fit your own narrative. This is sleuthing 101 here. There's a long pause at the end of the line, then. Yeah, I guess you're right. So maybe you just have to look at things from the beginning. All the clues are there. I'm very good at foreshadowing, you know. I know, but listen. Neither you nor I want this book to be any longer than it needs to be. I know you're not getting paid by the word, so if you don't want to write an extra 50 pages of my brother and I shaking each Chateau patron down one by one in the most boring, monotonous way possible, I think it would benefit everyone if you pointed me, Valentine, and Trudy in the right direction. I sigh. Here's the thing. I don't know how the book's going to end. Honestly, I didn't even think I'd get this far. It's a miracle I could type out this many pages of young adult fiction without throwing my typewriter into a river. Surely you must have written an outline before you started. Outlines are for cowards. I hear a long groan from JJ and some loud thumping noises. He doesn't tell me what that is, but since it's all coming from my head, I'll let you, the reader, know that JJ was repeatedly kicking the desk I supplied for him and his friends in their upgraded suite. Listen, young blood, I start. I'm only going to say this once, and I don't want it to read as if I have an ounce of kindness in my body, but what you, Valentine, and Trudy lack in textbook detective skills, you make up with your indomitable spirits. I built you 3 to be tougher than whatever life can throw at you, and together you kids could take over the world. I know you're feeling pretty frustrated right now, but that's how midpoints work in traditional 3-act story structures, so don't give up. I listen to the receiver, knowing full well JJ isn't the sort of character to receive sincerity and return with sincerity. Blow it out your corncob pipe, Doc. There we go. Listen, I say, I'm gonna hang up now because if this chapter gets too long, it'll be caught by whoever's job it is to give my work a light skimming before it goes to print. Take care, kid. I hang up the receiver and walk back to my Remington Elytra, situated at the window of my cabin. The man is back again at the edge of the woods. He looks like he's in better spirits today. Now, where was I? the end of chapter 10 and the end of chapter 1. I mean, act 1. Now he knows what a library is. Baked bread as opposed to unbaked bread? Maybe. I will totally be going all self-aware in my novels like this. Sorry, work text. I think Cecil is funny because he's not a real person. He's like a characterization, like a caricature of like egotistical author. Outline, haha, what's that? Okay, I think I'll do one more chapter. So Act 2. Chapter 11. A New Plan. JJ placed the phone back on its hook and sighed. Well, that was useless. What'd he say? Asked Valentine. He and Trudy sat on the bed behind JJ in their room. Just some ridery crap, something about the dominance of the human spirit or whatever, nothing that actually helped. He walked over to the other bed in the room and face planted onto it. Well, that's a dead end for me. I'm ready to go back to my original theory of ghost but with gun. JJ dragged his face from the comforter to face the two. Trudy, what happened to your name tag? Trudy looked down at her blouse, noticing the rectangular pattern where stitching had been removed. Madame Fournier called me into her office and fired me. Told me that if she found me snooping again, she'd have me arrested. But I gotta keep the dress since it came out of my paycheck. Good thing you have your detective career to fall back on, said JJ. Trudy glared with the appropriate amount of hatred for JJ. I should never have gotten involved with you two. I should mention now that technically we only pay an exposure, replied JJ. We also don't offer any health insurance. Legally, Ghost Hunters Adventure Club is a religious organization and you're gaining volunteer hours that should look pretty good on a college application, but no, I will not write you a letter of recommendation. I'm sorry that happened to you, said Valentine, showcasing the assumed northern limit of human understanding that existed between the two boys. Whatever, said Trudy. I can't change it now. So I guess we're back to square one? Valentine sighed. We're no closer to catching the killer than we were on day one. Catching the killer and finding the treasure, said JJ. Please don't forget about the treasure. You sure can't stop thinking about that treasure, can you? Trudy remarked. Someone has to keep their priorities straight. Trudy idly examined the ceiling of their hotel room. There has to be something we're missing. What if we looked at things again from the beginning? All right, Valentine agreed. A few days ago, JJ and I got a call from Wallace, and then we rode up here on our motorcycle. No, even further back. When did Wallace first become obsessed with John Henry Grande? He said he'd been coming here since he wrote his very first novel. He even met his wife here. I think he mentioned the treasure in that letter to Thad, but must have known about it long beforehand. What if finding the treasure was what he considered to be his last mystery? JJ spoke up. The conjecture lit a spark in Trudy's brain. What if we are his last great mystery? JJ's ears perked. He pushed himself up and sat on the bed. What do you mean? Think about it. His ex-wife and agent are at the chateau in time to witness his death. He called 2 private investigators up the mountain to be around when he dies. He knew about the coming blizzard. He could have timed it all out perfectly well. He could have timed it all out perfectly, knowing full well he was going to die, but he'd have the right people and the right clues to figure out who killed him. That sounds a bit far-fetched, said JJ. I thought so too, until I remembered it was the plot of his 3rd novel. What? I mean, there are some differences. The detective in the book didn't make any old ladies cry, but it didn't seem so far-fetched when the idea came from his brain before. Ever since I started working here, Mr. Gross would give me his books to read. I didn't think anything of it, and I read them because I didn't have anything else to do, but the weird thing was that he would regularly quiz me on the books. So you could be part of the puzzle too, said Valentine. I could be, I don't know. All of these coincidences happening at once is starting to make me feel like they weren't coincidences at all. Valentine looked out the window onto the chateau grounds below. The snow had finally stopped beating down, but the damage had been done. He could barely make out the edges of the road that had brought them up the mountain. In the morning, the snowplows will clear the roads and the real murderers will get away, he said. Wallace knew the snowstorm would give us time to solve the mystery, but we're running out of time. Think back to when you first met Wallace, said Trudy. If he was giving me clues, then he must have been giving you 2 clues as well. JJ thought for a moment. The first thing he did when he met us was ask us whether we were as good of private investigators as we said we were. Naturally, I embellished, but then he took us on that strange tour. Wasn't it weird that he made a point of telling us the first letter of each location? Asked Valentine. JJ nodded. Library, courtyard, ballroom, study. LCBS. What could that mean? There were plenty of coded messages in all of Wallace's mystery novels, said Trudy. It could be directions, a key code, or even an acronym. JJ thought hard. Loners can't be sorry. Lousy coffee brings serendipity. Look, counting backwards sucks. That last one's pretty true, don't you think? What about the note Marcella received from Wallace before he died? Asked Valentine. The one that she can't read. Maybe it has something to do with that? JJ groaned. I'd like to cordially request that we pursue other avenues than speaking to Marcella. Right now she's liable to rip my still-beating heart out with her bare hands after the stunt I pulled. Let's give that some breathing time, yeah, said Trudy. Is there anything else that we can go off of right now? Valentine stared out of the window, deep in thought. With the flurry now died down, he could make out the far-off lights of Harborville down at the base of the mountain. He searched his mind and ran through the tour with Wallace over and over again. There is one thing, he said. When Wallace was showing us the ballroom, he said something peculiar. Maybe you 2 should cut a rug in here sometime. We thought he was just being his regular brand of eccentric self when he said it, said JJ. But what if it was a clue? So he wants us to go and do a dance number? Asked Valentine. It's worth checking out. And to be honest, it's much more preferable than having my head bitten off by an emotional widow who just had her infidelity broadcasted to a chateau's worth of people. I'm game, said Valentine. It's the only direction we can go in right now. Well, what about Deputy Park? Asked Trudy. His threats, plus me getting fired, mean we're all redlined. If he catches us snooping around, we're all in a world of trouble. I'm not too worried about it. By this point in my life, I've done a master's thesis on avoiding cops, said JJ. It's actually one of his better talents, if you can call it that, added Valentine. 80% of his brain is dedicated to mapping the cops in the vicinity and memorizing their schedules. Where's Park, JJ? He's about to sit down for dinner. Usually orders a medium-well steak with a baked potato. When he feels like he's done a good job, he opts for seafood. Without fail, he'll make bad puns to impress the waitress. She's not amused by it. See? Said Valentine. It's magic. So we just wait until dinner time and we'll have complete access to the ballroom. It's trying to figure out Wallace's cryptic clues that'll be the challenge. JJ hopped up from the bed. And so, beaten but not broken, the Ghost Hunters Adventures Club once again embarks upon their quest for untold riches. And Wallace's murderer, added Valentine. And Wallace's murderer, parroted JJ. The trio, not knowing what trials lay before them, are steeled by the knowledge of their unmatched intelligence, cunning, and in the case of JJ Watts, bewildering good looks. We've reached your self-narration quota for today, said Valentine. Are you guys ready? Ready as I'll ever be, said Trudy. Trudy, it's time we teach you the secret handshake, JJ said. The condensed version. You can't handle the long version yet. It's too future. But when the time comes, you'll know. And that's end of chapter 11. Lily just put her clawed toe bean on my face. Ow. Ow. All right. I think that's about what I'm going to do today. It's hard to go for longer than like an hour and a half reading because it just, like, my mouth gets so dry. But thank you for being here and thank you for clapping. I really appreciate you all being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. Please take care of yourselves. Enjoy your weekend. It's Friday. Let me see if there's anybody streaming that I want to, Nah. That's okay. All right. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the day. I'm always impressed when you do a read heavy game. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll see you again soon. And as always, much love. Bye-bye.